Earlier this morning I posted a review for Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, a game that I was absolutely loving up until I encountered a particularly nasty game breaker that rendered the whole thing unwinnable. Now, as had been pointed out by commenters, there was some user error that triggered the initial glitch. It's one of those stock standard puzzles where you gotta run around in the dark and stay in the light, otherwise the dark will kill you. And there was a torch that I was supposed to light. I missed the torch, the game auto-saved behind me, and then I was stuck. Alone in the dark. The real tragedy of this is that I had a whole ton of praise for the game before that moment. This was a 7 or an 8. Edging towards an 8 the better the game got, and it was getting better and better until I hit that roadblock and could go neither forward nor back without dying. And I've been criticising games for 10 years, and that's actually never happened to me. I've considered it before. The possibility, wondered what would happen, like how do you review that, how do you deal with a game that you've been enjoying but then hits a bug so game breaking you can't go any further. And that's such a subjective thing because, especially in this case where it was seemingly quite a rare bug, no one else has mentioned it, like how do you quantify that? I can only review what I've played, but does that give an unfair impression? Initially, I was very bullish about this, but I didn't quite consider the fact that giving it a 1 out of 10 does put it on the same level as Life of Black Tiger, which Hellblade clearly is not. Some suggested I shouldn't have put a score on it, or I should have given the developers a heads up first, or I should have just waited for a patch or something before doing the review. Now, the reason I didn't want to do that is because this whole release it now, fix it later attitude is something I hate in the game industry in general, which is why I've always had a very strict I review the game I have, not the game it might be policy. But to tell you the truth, I was angry at the game. I was angry at the game for being so promising and then getting me in a situation where I couldn't go any further. And I was furious because I wanted, and still intend to, I wanted to do a Jimquisition about Hellblade as a product, as this indie AAA thing that Ninja Theory is trying to do with this more modest budget and a budget price, but with quote-unquote AAA style production value. I find that fascinating, I find that admirable, and as I said in the initial review, I have a ton of love and respect for Ninja Theory. So for me the situation is unprecedented, and I didn't quite know how to handle it, and my initial reaction, fueled by some anger, fueled by a considerable amount of anger, was to slap a 1 on it and say fuck you and call it a broken, unplayable piece of crap, which it wasn't. Up until that point it was very playable and quite enjoyable indeed. The review went up at 2 AM, it's now, fucking help me, it's 4:14 AM. Over the past couple hours, I've had many spirited chats and discussions and arguments with people, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm stumped for once. It's one of those situations where you get the thing out, you get your venting done, then you sober up and think, oof, maybe I really did go a bit too far that time. At the same time though, it is a game-breaking bug. Whether or not I missed a torch, the game was auto-saving behind me and auto-saved me into an unwinnable situation. But here's what I've done for now. For now, I've set the initial video private. It may still go back up. I've had a word with Metacritic, and they've changed my review to a review in progress. Simply because this is such a unique situation. Neither Metacritic nor myself have really encountered this sort of thing before, where a game's really, really good and then there's this one thing that just kind of scuppers the whole deck. And certainly they've not dealt with a critic like me who is very over-analytic at 4 in the morning and really, really does give a shit about the content he's making. One thing I want to make clear, especially to people on NeoGAF and in some of the YouTube comments, who thought I do this to troll people or to be edgy or to just be a, and I quote, whiny bitch. That's not why I do video game reviews. I do video game reviews because I love criticism as a form of expression. I love video games and I love video game criticism. And I want to be capable of publishing the best video game criticism that I can. And the more I think about it, the less useful the score I gave it is. It's not useful to anybody watching, and all it's done is made me feel more and more uncomfortable. Certainly not vindicated, especially since no matter how harsh my criticism may be, I want this game to succeed. I think this game deserves to succeed. But that does sound very weird coming from someone who just gave this game the verbal thrashing of a lifetime. Who knows, maybe some will say what I'm doing now is the overreaction. But there are plenty of people who think the review itself was an overreaction, so who can tell? The vast majority of the review will be seen again in some way, shape or form, because a lot of that stuff holds true. The stuff I loved, the stuff I didn't love. As far as what the score will be, or if there even will be a score, or whether I'll wait for a patch, or whether I won't, that's something I'm going to have a bit of a think about. And I think I'm going to sleep on that first. But I knew I wouldn't sleep at all unless I address this. That's what happens when you're just a natural ball of anxiety and worry. I couldn't just leave that review simmering when I was feeling uncomfortable and displeased with my presentation, with my performance, with my delivery, with my production, with my work. I was unhappy with that, and as someone who's critical of people's work a lot, it's only fair that I'm critical of my own, that I reflect on it, that I analyse it, and that if possible, I fix something if I feel I've handled it incorrectly. I'm not quite sure I made the right call, so I'm going to see what I can do to make the right call, if indeed there is a right call. But we'll see where that goes. Thank you for your time.